That is not a misfire in sight. Welcome back to Living with a Classic. And even though I'm wearing my V12 shirt, we're going to have a look at what used to be my daily driver, my 1975 Jaguar XJ6. It's a car I sort of call the mascot here on the channel. It's always been the most popular car on the channel. Whenever I put a video up on it, you guys seem to really enjoy it, especially during the winter when I was daily driving this thing when we had snowstorms here and it was just ice and terrible. But this thing did really well. Except, as you know, it does have some sort of head gasket issue. It was about 2 months or so since I started up. It's just been sitting in here down in the barn. And you know what? I thought we'd just see if it fires into life. I want to keep things still sort of fresh. I want to keep, fresh fuel going through the carbs. And I mean, it can't really do any more damage to the engine. Hopefully it does start up. Because if I will put a new engine in it or restore this one, not really sure what's going on yet, but more on that a little bit later in the video. I still want to keep the fuel system, all that going, since the carbs are restored and everything else on the car is working as it should. So let's see, I got the keys here. I got a little bit of tools with me, got some water to pour into the radiator, and let's see what's going on. And we had some sort of insect there. All right, well, let's go inside and have a look at the daily driven XJ6. All I brought down is 13mm for the battery. I think I disconnected the quick disconnect as well. Bought a rag just to check the oil. And I'm guessing that the coolant's going to be low, but I'm not going to put coolant in at the moment since it seems to be using it and going somewhere. So I'll just put in some water for now. It's summer here. Nothing really should happen. So let's have a look in here. And got a lawnmower there. And over here in the corner, looking a little sorry for itself, is my 1975 XJ6. So nothing has happened to it since you saw the last video on this thing more than 2 months ago when I filmed that. Basically, when I filmed that, I actually moved it pretty much right after that, just to over here, since I need a space for something else. And it's just been sitting here, collecting dust. And yeah, it's not the... I do miss driving this. I'm a little sad about all this, but I do have other things going on, and sometimes I sort of feel you need to put a project to the side, especially one where I've spent so much time on, like this one. The last thing I did was, of course, put the XJ40 interior in it. If you haven't seen that, you can check that out on the channel. So I did a lot of cutting and welding and things to get this to work, and I'm so happy with it. It just looks fantastic. I still haven't actually cleaned up this interior, done anything. Still gonna need to do the carpets and a few other things. I know it's a little bit dark in here, so we'll try and get a light set up a little bit later so you can see the interior more. But now let's see what the state of the engine is. If it's still there, I have no idea. Well, I mean, I really do hope the engine is there, but don't know if anything's happened. We'll walk around, open that up, and have a look under here. Let's see. All right, it's very, very dark over here. I'll set up a light and I'll be right back. I do have a light set up now. It's not perfect, but this is not someplace I usually work on cars, as you know, but just a storage thing. However, there are some plans for this building in the future, which we may go through at some point. If you're interested in seeing that, let me know in the comments down below. But basically, I just want to check the oil on this side, and a little bit high, and I think I need 2 hands. Right, and that is definitely a little bit on the gray side looking. So yeah, there are issues with this engine. I'm not going to go through everything in this video because so much has happened with this car. If you've been following along, you know all about it. If you haven't, we can do I'm able to get dipstick back. There we go. We can do just a really, really brief thing. So got the car here with a blown head gasket. Went through it on the channel once and lasted about 3 months or so, started leaking again. Pulled the head again, had it checked one more time for cracks, and had it skimmed a tiny bit more because there was a little bit of corrosion in one place. The block has been checked in place, put it all back together, runs great. once again for a few months, and we're back to square one. So there is some issue going on. I have filmed inside cylinder 2 before, and we can see a little bit of coolant in there. It's not very much. It's a tiny bit. This thing's not using a ton of coolant. It's not overheating, but it is definitely making its way into the engine and probably going past the rings and making its way into the oil. Not the greatest thing ever. The one thing I did do when I put this thing away is I removed that spark plug before. I put some WD-40 in there and put it in just to sort of minimize the damage to this engine. I don't think I will be reusing it. However, I want to still be able to move this car, you know, depending on what happens to it. The plan is to hopefully find a good replacement engine, either one I can just put in or one that I can restore. I don't really feel like restoring this one right now, just because having the block tested where I live for cracks or other things is extremely expensive because no one wants to do it for some reason. And I really can't justify that cost. So it's better to get another engine, sort of gamble that that block is better if it runs, and restore that one. But now we just want to see if we can get this thing up and running, because I think it's a good thing to keep it going and not just have it sit. First of all, so I know it will start. And also if I do plan on restoring it, it's a lot better to actually, I think it runs a little bit. So let's see. Okay, this wasn't on. And yeah, there's a little bit of water in there. We can check the level. Oh, that was not on either. Not sure why. Don't really remember, but yeah, I'll walk around and show you, but there is no water in there either. Let's see if I can shine with my flashlight here on the phone as well. As you can see, it's dry there, but right below there, oh, we can see the water in there. You see some gold particles in there. That's because, as a fun experiment, I did try head gasket sealer. I can't get all the types of head gasket sealers here that you can get over in the States and the UK, I've noticed. But I got Rizlone, which I've been happy with their products in the past for other things. So I'll try that, and well, that did not work. So but that was a good thing to experiment. So maybe it's worked for other people, but for me, it did not work in this situation. We see the battery's disconnected here. Just disconnect it fully because I think I used this battery for something else for a while. Hopefully there's a charge on that. I'll tighten that up, and then we'll see if this thing fires into life. And if it does, hopefully it's not knocking terribly or doing anything like that, but I will fill up with water, of course, so we don't run it hot and do any more damage to it. Battery cable is tightened up now, so hopefully there's some juice in that. I also filled it up with water. It took maybe half a liter or something like that to go up to there. Seems to still have coolant over in the reservoir. So I'll put both the caps on, and then let's see if this thing fires into life. In case you're new to the channel, here's what the XJ40 front seats look like. And if I ever get this thing actually working as it should, I will be re-dyeing or recoloring or recovering the center console to get that to match as well. But it looks very nice, and it's very comfortable. So let's have a seat in here. Oh, it feels good to be back. I do absolutely love this thing. Let us see what happens. Got some fuel pump going. Ignition light. Fuel pump has stopped. And let's see if this thing fires up. Alright, that was pretty unbelievable. So that's the odd thing about this car. It does feel pretty healthy. So I mean, that thing started up right away, and that is sort of the odd thing about this. I mean, I haven't disassembled this, so I can't exactly say what's going on, but it is a tiny leak, and it's only a leak when it's hot. And that's a weird thing. I mean, it fires up right like that after sitting for about 2 months. That is, I'd say that's impressive. We got about 50 pounds of oil pressure. It's charging. It's smooth. It's running on choke at about 900 RPMs right now. So that's a frustrating thing. But it does get a tiny bit of hydrocarbons in the coolant, like the smallest amount. Like when I use the tester, I have to let it sit in there for about 5 or 10 minutes, completely pumping, and then finally it will change color a little bit. So I had an interesting conversation with a very knowledgeable man yesterday who is just the expert on the XK engine. I'm not going to mention who it is at the moment, but maybe in a future video we can talk more about that. And I was talking to him just generally about XK engines. It was a lot of fun, and we talked about this. I'll shut the door a little bit so we can. I'm going to let it run for a little bit because I think it's good to get some fresh fuel through it. We talked about really what's been going on with this restoration and all of that. Let's turn on the interior lights so you can see me a little bit better, hopefully. And he said it's odd that it's doing what it's doing, that you check the head and everything, and that it's such a small, tiny leak. So he wanted me to try something that I know some of you guys have suggested as well, and it's not the easiest thing to get a hold of here. He said with such a tiny, tiny leak, he said try K-Seal. He said it's not going to hurt it or anything, and it might actually save it, because he said sometimes these heads, you know, they're old, they can get porous. Sometimes the liners and things can get porous on these engines, and sometimes that can be really hard to test when you have it at a machine shop, because they only test it cold, and maybe, you know, for leaks and stuff, they don't test it when it's to operating temperature, and this thing really only does that when it's fully warmed up. So he said try that, because, you know, it's worth it. So I tried to get a hold of it here before. It's not the easiest thing. It's not sold where I live, and if you're wondering, I live in Sweden, but I found a place that was willing to ship it to me, and I've ordered 2 cans of it, and I just got a confirmation right before I filmed this video that they're on their way. So you know what, I'm actually going to try it, because I mean, I was going to wait until see if it fires up, and now, I mean, it fired up so nicely and it's sitting here idling, but I ordered it anyways before I knew that, just because I thought it'd be a good thing to have. I've yet to hear anything bad about K-Seal. A lot of the other head gasket sealers seem to be just snake oil, but the weird thing about K-Seal is that it seems to work, and it seems to be permanent for a lot of people. So that will be a fun thing to try. So I think when that happens, I will flush out the coolant system, so we get the old Rizlone stuff out of there, put in just distilled water. No point in wasting any money on coolant. Follow the instructions on the can. We can run this thing on distilled water for, you know, all summer really, because it's not going to corrode on the engine and it's not freezing here, and see what happens. I'm aware that this engine, like we talked about, it's not in its first flush of youth. It's when it's cold, it can be a tiny bit tappety, even though everything is set. Not sure what it has to be. I haven't, you know, delved into the engine, but it's otherwise been incredibly reliable as my daily driver, and I think there could be some miles left in it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to look for a replacement engine to restore to have as a spare for this car, because I don't feel like selling this car. I really do love it, especially now with this interior and everything, and I do love driving it, and I will continue to have it on the channel. But what do you guys think about that? Had any of you guys used K-Seal with success? Do you think it's a complete waste of time to try it again? At least I don't think so. If I've had 2 XK engine experts tell me that I should try it as a thing, and that they've experienced similar things in the past and done it, and then it's been fine, that of course it doesn't work on a major leak, but when I have such a tiny leak that I also feel is intermittent, it's not leaking all the time. I mean, at the moment, I don't know if you noticed, but this engine is not misfiring. We'll go out there and listen to it. It is running perfectly, not misfiring. So definitely not leaking at this moment. Let's go outside so you guys can hear it. The camera mic always makes this thing sound kind of loud, which it's not. It is not really, when it's warmed up like this, it is very quiet, but we'll see how it turns out. But you see, it's pretty smooth. It's not misfiring. I mean, it probably could use a little bit of a rev to clear out, because it's still been running on a choke, but it is definitely running on all cylinders. The AED is about to turn off, and I mean, let's listen in the back. I mean, this thing is probably sitting with pretty old gas as well, and that is not a misfire in sight. So that's the thing. This thing runs very nicely and everything else. And we do have a little bit of noise up there, but I did spill a lot of water on the belts. That's probably what we're hearing. And yeah, AED is turned off now, and this thing is purring along. So So this is probably the XJ6 that doesn't want to die. At least this XK engine wants to live on. And I want to have it live on just because, look at it, it's been sitting for this long with probably some major issue. And I mean, that was not even a second on the starter and this thing fired into life. So let's see if it's gotten up to temperature. Yep, thermostat is opened up. And we got the idler down there, which definitely got some water on it, making some noise. But I think, let's check. It's probably down to the correct idle right now. You can turn on these lights. Yeah, we got 750 RPMs. Just up to temperature over there. Not sure you can see that. Oil pressure is at 40. Charging. Oh, definitely not completely dead. So that was not really what I was expecting. I was expecting it to misfire like crazy. Been sitting for that long, probably with some coolant in that cylinder. I wasn't expecting it just to fire into life like that. Also, that battery is good for sitting. So really just lots of positive surprises rather than what to say. This thing does not want to die, and it seems intermittent, whatever's going on. But we're going to give it a shot with the case seal. I'm going to re-torque the head one more time. I'm not going to loosen it or anything because that would just ruin the head gasket. I will torque it down again. We will try that, and if not, we'll see what happens. The man I was speaking to as well, the XK expert, he suggested I try a different head gasket as well. Because he was just like, don't give up on this engine yet, because you've done so much to it, you should continue. So if this doesn't work, maybe I'll pick up the head gasket that he wants me to try out, but he had me send me one over or something, and we'll try that. I mean, I'm getting really quick at removing these heads now, and we'll try that and go from there, because it's definitely just a small issue in one cylinder, and it's definitely not major, because otherwise it wouldn't start up like this. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Do you miss the Daily Driving a Classic series with this car? Because I don't know, it just doesn't feel the same recording with the XJ40, because there was always some small things to do with this car, and I'm probably jinxing it right now, but the XJ40, it just seems to be working quite nicely. I mean, this one was always working nicely as well, but there were always small little fun things I could do on every week, which doesn't feel like I can do with the XJ40 in the same way. But let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I would love to hear if anyone has used K-Seal and actually successfully, and what has happened. And yes, I'm aware things like this can clog up radiators and heater cores and things, but I'm willing to take that risk. I can fix that later, have it sent off to a radiator shop. I'm not really worried about that. This is just also a fun car here on the channel to try things on. I think this is a great car just to experiment with and try various things on, what works and what doesn't work. And I think that has a lot of value to be able to try things out on a car and actually see what happens. Anyways, if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, share it with your friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Until next time, I'm Adam, and this was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.